kind of, no, all good. Everything from single family home, ADU work, smaller, quote, smaller scale work, all the way to 120 unit apartment. So kind of, and anything in between. So our work spans from, community coalition, work with teen centers and community centers to medical offices to, I mentioned that, that 91 unit apartment building. We're working with cities like the city of LA on some facade programs, and the county of LA Rec and Parks, top left, those are these well-being spaces that we're putting into 14 of the most underserved parks in the county of Los Angeles. So pretty cool. We're excited. It's in construction right now. So we don't really have a project type, and we like to be nimble and knowledgeable at all scales and support clients to do the most for their budget. So we work with everything from all the, as I mentioned, these community centers, restaurants, kind of nonprofits, some things you might know or see in your community, and then also nonprofit developers in the multifamily sphere, and of course some for-profit ones as well, but this is kind of that nonprofit world. And then we've also worked on a lot of ADUs, either completing new ones or, additions as ADUs or legalizing existing ones. So this is just a little smattering of some of the ones we've worked on, a garage conversion or, a in ground or an addition at the back or, things like that. And sometimes legalizing unpermitted ADUs. So today we're going to look at learning about the potential for creativity and cost effectively adding housing to an existing multifamily. We're going to leverage rehab, work, mobilization with new construction. And we're going to make the most of a property by adding ADUs through the multifamily ADU ordinance, both within existing buildings and as additions, and look at traditional units, minimizing parking if desired using AB 2097. So that's kind of the overall. Sometimes it goes, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, multifamily attached and detached ADUs. So this is kind of what you might see if you were building a new ADU on a single family. In this case, it was a design we were working on for a hillside lot, combining a home and an ADU. That's not what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about multifamily ADUs. So this is a spreadsheet that you, anyone can get through the city of LA. That is looking at two things. I know it's small, so I'm kind of going to talk through it, and I got some slides that get bigger. But essentially, the boxes are covering the multifamily aspects of this. The left side, the turquoise column, is the this entire form here is about attached ADUs. And the turquoise column is the attached ADU using the ordinance from the city. Then the right side, the orange, is the state law. And that blue kind of squares circles the multifamily. So essentially for attached, we have one per lot in the ordinance, and we have an additional detached amount that you can add to that. And then this is really confusing because they do what's allowed in attached, and then they add you the detached. So I'm going to stick with just the attached. So attached, you get one per lot for the ordinance, and you get up to 25% of existing units in the building, one minimum, and using non-habitable space. So we're going to look at that. And then detached for the ordinance, you get one per lot again. And with the state law, you get up to 8 new units, not to exceed the number of existing multifamily dwellings. So if you had 6, you can have 6. If you have 2, you can have 2. Okay? But if you had 16, you could have 8, right? 8 is the max. So new units within existing multifamily. So you have a multifamily, building. You have some storage rooms. You have a basement that's weird but tall and unpermitted. You have a laundry room, your recreation rooms, your attics. This picture above is an attic that we converted to an ADU. Obviously creating a dormer, like giving a little height to that space where needed. And then the lower one is an unpermitted ADU below a house. There's like a real drop down on this hill. The front side is, right at grade, and then the back is like is a full height space, drop down. So that's a perfect, and they saw it as such, and they already made it that way, but then we had to get it legalized. So, but that's the kind of space that can be used. So It's 1 unit maximum, one minimum, excuse me, but up to a quarter of the existing unit count. So if this was a 16-unit building and it had space in the attic and space in the basement, or it had garages that are attached up to a quarter of the existing unit count, you could do 4 new units. And there's no size or height limit because it's within this existing space, and there's no new car parking required.
This is, I mean, yeah, really important for, especially for the realtors, if you have a listing that's multifamily, to understand some of these basic things that you can't do. It will help increase the value of your property for your seller, and it'll also be able to pitch to buyers what the opportunity is in purchasing this property. I had a triplex a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago, that had 3 spots. It was a triplex, but it had three un unhabitable or uninhabitable. I, Unhabitable spaces. Um, so the triplex could have easily become a sixplex, and that's what ended up selling the spot. One was a garage, one was a big laundry room, and another one was just like this under patio area that was used as a big storage room. Um, and actually, there was another spot they could have used too. That was like a rec room that they had that was at the bottom of the building. So once I started pitching the property with the idea of what it could be, it changed the whole conversation, and it changed the game, and it helped me sell it once I knew and I understood that. So, really, really important. Understand some of these basic things, and it will help your life as a realtor so much more.
All comes to cost, and I love to talk about that too. So like,
Yeah.
you know, if uh, you know, if and when I, ground up construction today, and again, you're going to hear so many different numbers from everybody, but I am agnostic, having just seen things get bid and built. I'm not a contractor, so in a way, we have more. We have less skin in the game, and I'm just pretty honest. But we tend to see like say $500-600 a square foot for ground new construction inside a building, 300 to 400 a square foot. It depends on what's happening. So if you're making new space for 300 to 400 plus soft costs, maybe 4 to 5 or 5 to 6, which is really 6 to 7 with soft costs, but you're selling for 1,000 or 1,200 a square foot, that's like cost positive almost immediately.
Yeah,
it depends on the site. If you're hillside, talking some more money.
Yeah. Yeah, or with the rent that you're going to be able to get for that space, and you want to hold it long term. So there's different options. Yeah.
But you're not underwater theoretically if you do it right.
Yeah.
Which is good. The next thing I want to highlight are detached ADUs, right? So there's the unpermitted spaces or uninhabitable, not used as units. But then the second part of multifamily options of adding are detached. And so through SB 1211, on a lot with an existing multifamily dwelling, not more than 8 detached ADUs can be added. So that's a game changer. That's really new in the past year. This is a new kind of expanse to the law. So it used to be 1 or 2. This is really new.
Yeah, this is great.
So like if you happen to have that, and I've seen them, those lots that have like a 4-plex, and then just for some reason like backyard.
Yeah, huge back. Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a drop and that can still be worked with, or maybe it's flat. I've seen that, then you could theoretically do kind of like that bungalow style complex. And actually, so number one, the detached ones, can't, have this height limit. So they're 16 to 20 feet, depending on the slope of the roof. But they can't exceed the number of existing units. So like I said, if you have 6, you can only have 6 more, right? But up to 8. And then 4-foot setbacks at the side and backyard is so critical for ADUs versus typical multifamily, because you can actually add regular units, of course, in that case or other cases. But when they're ADUs, they're given this like hall pass of like just being close to the back, close to the side. So that allows you to do more, right? If you have a 15-foot setback at the rear, it might be a deal breaker.
Yeah.
The other thing that happens with these is that the detached ADU is defined on multifamily as having to be structurally independent, doesn't share a roof, a wall, or foundation from the primary dwelling, from those existing units, but a detached ADU may be structurally integrated or share a wall or roof or foundation with another ADU. So there's a funny consideration. Again, this is new, so I haven't done one yet in this regard, but love to, get out there and be talking to the planning department and the city and trying it. But it seems that they can be contiguous, these detached ADUs. So that's interesting as well. Yeah. But it's not like, it can be that bungalow court, or it can be, a kind of a building or a combination of buildings that work better for the site.
So if there were like 2 garages in the back of the
like separate or together?
Separate.
Okay, yeah.
Could you do like 4 units of like first floor, second floor on one, first floor, second floor on the other?
So tell me, there's a building at the front, and then the garages at the back are separate. They're not attached to the building, right? They're detached.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one, you could convert those, yes, because and then you should be able to. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Or you want to get a.
Can you do 4? Yeah. Can you do a separate unit above it?
I think the 2-story aspect is something that they're seem to be squashing in this latest, because that 16 to 20 is still the max.
Okay.
So I think for the detached, it's and again, happy to with anybody as we do these projects, we want to come with the biggest and highest goals, right? And we do a case management meeting with the city. We bring some questions. Maybe we would ask that, but as I see it, potentially no.
So the service that you're offering for the art show, what is that? How much did that normally cost?
Yeah,
what do you do?
So
or if now's a good time to mention it, I don't know.
Yeah, we can mention it now. So I would offer a site consultation. This is a service that we offer, and I can pull up well, maybe we do it at the end. I'll pull up a visual of it.
Perfect.
Yeah. I didn't plan, but now I know I'm doing it. Yeah, of course.
I know, sorry.
Of course. No, not at all. So again, these detached, have these reduced setbacks, which make them really easier to do. We know we can make them one building. So here's an example of a couple of projects, not that we did.
I have a question.
Yeah. Oh.
John, did you have a question?
Yeah. What's the difference between an ADU and a guest house?
It's a good question. There was a time when guest houses were listed as a thing in places like RE, like, residential estate, those big estate properties. How there's R1 for City of LA as an example. There's R1 and R2, and then there's RE, and it's like RE9, RE14, whatever. Those used to list guest house as like that maid house or something, accessory quarters. I think all of that, in truth, all of that has just become an ADU now. So in concept, there's no difference, I guess, technically now.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And they're like, okay, if it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, we're just going to call it an ADU, accessory dwelling unit. An accessory dwelling unit is, in terms of like a Venn diagram, accessory dwelling unit is the bigger catch, right? An accessory dwelling, and then that, those like terms would have been like inside of it. So yeah, please, question.
In what scenario would you go the ADU versus the SB?
SB9, or are you thinking? Sorry.
What did you just?
1121. Yeah, let me go back. Essentially, so this is just the law that allowed for the 8. So this is the ADU law. Yeah, it's just that, again, a year ago, and it's been like now formalized. That is what the new update is about.
Is that the one that allows you to sell the property separate?
It might be included. I don't know if it's included in this state bill. I actually don't know. Oh, you said, but yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I don't know what Senate bill. Yeah, 9 is. Is that the one that mentions the selling separately?
Yes.
And the selling. Okay, got it. Then 9. No, not the same. Yeah. So in this case, this isn't our project, but a project that a developer shared with me at an event I went to. And so they had a series of properties, and these were the ADUs that were added. So you get the point. Like, oh, parking lot. Again, this is it's all relative to what you can do, but you're seeing the vision, right? Oh, some land that's maybe not that well utilized, you know, maybe we don't need all that parking, or maybe it's better to become housing. So this is one, and then this is the second. Again, these clusters and finding spaces that can work within it. Again, we can speak to like the look or not, or whether this is the most successful version, but I think it takes a good eye and a good designer to make sure that you get something that feels good to the new and old residents. Any other questions about sort of that? Because I'm going to jump into a little bit of other about rehab and new construction. All right, keep going. I wanted to highlight some projects that we've done and just some opportunities. So in El Sereno, we work with the city for HOCLA on 17 units doing renovations and ADUs. So this is, 9 ADUs added to 8, a JDU and a regular, so 8 homes getting rehabbed at the same time. So one, I wanted to just highlight doing those things at the same time has that cost savings, right? If you're redoing a roof and you have a roof for doing a new roof, like it's like easily at least 20% cost savings we found versus doing them separately. So if you can bundle your multifamily fix with your new build, you're going to have that mobilization and save time. And that's definitely the case with these projects. These are actually like where the 710 freeway was, eminent domain taken from residents. And now they're turning these into back into affordable housing, which is great. But this is Samara, who we used for the ADUs as a prefab. And that's also an option, right? And we're finding that all in construct, and this is the 400 is for this project, and I would say down to 300 when you're not using, because they had to use prevailing wage and stuff. But anyway, that's kind of the all-in drop cost for an ADU. And then renovations and new units, we've done a 40 rehab, I know bigger scale, but 41 rehab and 50 new. And we're seeing $300 per door, $300,000 per door. And that is at half the cost of a typical affordable housing unit cost per door. Again, prevailing wage, lots of things that you all won't have to do. So there is an inflated cost for those, but doing it together is really a cost savings if you can. And then the rehab and new at Stewart Apartments, that was a 10 unit, and we converted a carport to an additional unit at the same time that we renovated the whole building. So again, like when you buy that building and you're like, let's do it, that can be a cost savings. And then this is a hotel conversion idea, and I know you're not always looking at this, hotels or motels, but if there is a defunct hotel, motel, those can easily become units. They're doing it for affordable housing, but it could be cool at the same time for just traditional housing. And so we've done a 7-unit conversion and a 120 unit, very different scales. But it can be cool. So I don't know if there's something not being used, not happening, not feeling it. It could be the right fit for this reuse, to a new housing. And then rehab and new construction energy savings. So I want to highlight a few things you can do. So these are really exciting, and this is from 5 units and up. So maybe not the 2, but 5 or more units. You can, I don't know if you've heard of this, but the camera, I don't know if you're familiar, but this has a little bit to do with affordability again. So, but it's not that you're an affordable housing developer, like stamped by, but that your households are below that income. So again, some of us, have places where someone's been there for a bit. And if those people qualify, then you're able, and you're in this like disadvantaged community area, then you're able to get incentives, get money back basically. So, you have to show that you're going to do at least 5% increase in energy savings with what you're going to do. You do have to use prevailing wage for this one. But if you go up to 5%, you can also cover the incentive for installation of solar photovoltaic systems. So, it's something to think about as you're doing the work. So this is like the comprehensive kind of strategy. So if you prove it, you can get $5,400 per unit, I think, or $6,750, depending on if you're kind of helping the tenant save money. So this is just something to look at. That's LADWP. And then there's also a state. SOMA is the state of California, SOMAH. And then the other thing to consider with renovation is incentives for weatherization. So this is LIWIP. Again, can cover 30 to 100% of energy efficiency, 50 to 100 of solar. There's free support. So for this 91 unit, again, big project, but the 41 units, there was $240,000 that were given based on insulating pipes, walls and roofs with higher R value, electric hot water heater and heat pumps. So it goes all the way down to 5 units. So it's not just for the big guys. So something to consider. And then construction incentives. So those new construction pieces, for those new units that you might add or build, there are incentives as well. Again, some of that 30 to 100%, 50 to 100%, but this one even has like a design incentive to go toward helping figure it out, you know, make it happen if you're doing it for the first time for 10 or more units. So kind of exciting. And then for what you do for new build, you would focus on energy efficient appliances, utilizing the most low energy fixtures, all electric for units, no gas, heat pumps to high efficiency, and the AEA, the group that leads that, offers support to developers as what will pass. So if you are doing some kind of development, I would say definitely look into these because they can be money in your pocket towards things you were going to do anyway. And then AB 2097 is no parking required for units at all. And again, that hot button topic, right? We may want parking, we may not want parking, we may think that's way too few parking. But technically, if you are in a zone that qualifies for AB 2097, you do not need to add parking. So that goes back to the question of sort of this above the garage question. If you wanted to do that as a traditional unit and you didn't want to follow the ADU law, you do have a setback, so maybe that doesn't work. I don't know. But let's say it works, you could do those as traditional units and avoid additional parking, which you would normally have to qualify for. So AB 2097 is essentially saying, hey, it prohibits the public agency from imposing a minimum automobile parking requirement on most types of development within half a mile of major transit stop. And that is why, so again, it's where you are, which is a lot of LA, right? A lot of our county. So what you're looking for on ZEMIS, you guys all familiar with ZEMIS? Oh, bye. Thank you. Thanks, Zoe. To ZEMIS, if you pull down to within zoning, you see that AB 2097 right there within a half mile. Yes, then that's my office. So if we're eligible, then that's how you know. And I wanted to touch on legalizing existing units, and then I'll jump into what we can do for a presentation or a site consultation. So last thing is, there may be units that you all have, that you buy, that you see, that are unpermitted units where someone's already living there. And those have become more and more easy to permit. So the permitting of these unpermitted units have to be built or converted prior to 2020 to get this special kind of look at them because they don't want to unhouse people. So they're focusing on life and safety code issues, right? So if you can prove through leases, through paying gas, through something that people were living there legitimately, when you're coming in to the building department, then it's really focusing on the kind of like letting some of the energy stuff go, you know, that we're all being held to today, but focusing on life safety. So egress doors and windows need to be the correct width, or you have to have a smoke and a carbon monoxide detector. But other things can remain. And we've had projects that, you know, existed and, you know, and they look fine. A lot of times we're like, oh, it looks fine, you know, and so we did go through the process and had it inspected, and it was pretty much just rubber stamped and they became legalized. So yeah, you know, there's issues where, wow, that's not the right height. Like that's not legal, you know, or something. But as long as they are really carving, they have a list of exceptions and things that they're really focusing on.
That's good to know because we come across that all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, maybe there's no value to this, but maybe there is.
Exactly.
So to
to know.
go through to
Yeah.
convert it, how much
Yeah.
is that? Like,
So we've done about, as you saw, we've done probably like 10 or 15 on permanent ADU to permit. And I would say it's like our work is like the same regardless. We have to do the drawings and like show the city like it's new, unfortunately, and it's a little bit squirrely, right? So our work tends to be anywhere from like 5 to 10 to like 15 to 20,000 to just get through the process. But the physical work, I would say you want to, and again, that's what we could do at a site consultation is kind of look and decide. But we've seen between 20 and 60, depending on like what the issues are.
okay.
Yeah, so you're somewhere like 60, 20 to 80,
Yeah, and I mean that could for so
Again,
many
a whole
people
new
have
unit.
a whole new unit that's legal because
Huge.
if you're renting a unit out that's not permitted, that could be a huge liability for the property owner. I've heard that, tenants have sued property owners for all the rent that they paid for years.
Yikes.
So who knows? But going through it this way, if it's a little easier, it's definitely worth talking about and figuring out if that makes sense for some people. Yeah.
Yeah, and AB 2533, if you want to Google it, look it up, that will have that list of like reduction or like focuses and kind of like what they're really focusing on.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
go on
Yeah.
that as far as legality.
Yeah.
And you're definitely right. There's also like a insurance liability by renting out a unit that's not legal.
Yeah.
I had an example where the main house had a fire, and because there was a rental unit in the back that was illegal, they didn't come for the claim.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's important because you can't get the proper policy on the property.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
That sucks.
So call Stephanie. Get
Yeah.
it done.
Just get it permitted. It's the time. I mean,
Yeah.
there's always a way. I honestly, we've never come across an unpermitted ADU that we didn't get permitted. So
Good.
there's always a way.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
So
Right.
knock on wood.
And I mean, I guess one thing I've heard from people is like,
Yeah.
well, the problem with like, so if someone converted a garage to a rental,
Still.
is that the concern was like, do we need to redo the whole foundation because it doesn't have the
Not
proper
necessarily.
foundation?
No, not necessarily. So
Okay.
we've done a ton of garage conversions. It definitely depends on the age of the garage.
Okay.
If it, when you start getting into like the 10s to 20s garage, like a
Yeah.
really, really old garage, you may have to replace more of the foundation. But
Okay.
I would say 90% of the time, no.
And then another like cost issue that people are aware of is like sewer line. Does that need to have its own sewer line if it didn't before?
So a JADU, which is connected to the existing home, which could also happen in a connected garage or connected something, does not have to have separate sewer. So that's one consideration. Like, can we fit into that category?
Yeah.
You can't for multifamily, is there's no J's, but that's single. But otherwise, an ADU does need to have, a separate line, but on the same property, it reconnects to the main line. Like, they don't want the house to like black up and have an issue, and then the ADU is affected, or vice versa. So they are kind of running.
If it's unpermitted garage conversion that doesn't have that,
That might be one of the things they
is
look
that an
at.
exception?
That might be one of the.
Maybe?
Yeah, I think so, because I wouldn't consider that life safety.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's at least 50-50,
Interesting.
if
Cool.
not. Yeah, I like that question. We'll have to find out.
Yeah, because that could be a
A lot of money.
more
Yeah, and they're not,
issue.
especially because they're trying to not displace people and make it so onerous that you can't do it. And then you have this person in an illegal unit, which is unsafe or whatever. Yeah, so I bet that might be a path.
Interesting. I'm learning a lot today.
Yeah, good. But there was something else you were just saying about unpermitted. Oh, garages. So just in concept, you have a garage and maybe it's permitted or not permitted, but you want to turn it into an ADU. What normally has to happen is it has to become habitable. Becoming habitable means that it's going to meet our structural code today. And so the thing that a garage does not have is shear walls. So shear walls are like solid walls in each direction of the force. Usually it's a square, so something in 4 directions. How does that work? So kind of like a solid wall so that spinning and an earthquake doesn't happen. That can be stucco. If you have a long enough wall of stucco, that can be your shear in a certain wall. Okay. If you don't, then you're starting to do plywood, 2 4x4s with foundation, point load foundation and plywood on each side. That's a shear wall. That's like your cheap shear wall. That's like 10,000 to make a shear wall, So sometimes often we have a garage and we're opening up inside, digging out, making a new foundation and putting a shear wall in a couple of locations, fixing the floor, red guard, so it doesn't waterproof up, but you're not like replacing the entire foundation. You're beefing it up in a couple of areas for these new shear walls and then doing all your work. So that's like the gist of it. So a garage conversion, depending on how fancy, can be 100 to 200 depending on what you're putting into it, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's it for that. And I wanted to show you, you mentioned, we talked about the consultation, and I think that is a good segue to just kind of like, what do I do when I need to know, what is going on with my property? So now I'm gonna find that donation, but maybe if anyone has a question in the meantime, or anything else while I search for this, let's see. Let's see. Oh, I know, I just emailed.
I'm writing the RSVP link in the chat for anyone for the art show and silent auction.
This, let me see. So this is that, and then I think I have the paperwork. Okay, so I'll share screen again and kind of give you a chance to see what at least what we can do, and of course if you ever have any questions, just shout out to me. So sharing again my desktop. This is kind of what we'll offer to the collective for your silent auction. It's a 2-hour design / budget consultation with a licensed architect, possibly me or one of my teammates, but whoever you get, you're gonna love them. $750 value. It's actually $1,300 if you wanted like a full report. So sometimes you have multiple owners or you want to see all the background and paperwork, but really we're giving you our time, but if you want more we can do that as well. But basically this will be the what's being auctioned. So it's getting answers to your questions. Can I add an accessory dwelling in it? Is it possible to add to my home? How do I budget and plan for these changes? What will my construction budget cost? What is the architecture and city permitting? So that's kind of the high level. And the sort of down and dirty of it is this next page, which essentially I'll run through. So what we're doing is kind of what's feasible at your site in that working meeting. And so we're looking at, the feasibility, what's possible, right? What does the zone allow? And then setback, zoning and planning. Again, is it ADUs? How does this gonna work? Hillside ordinance, are you in the hillside? Cost of construction. So we're gonna go through kind of high level cost of construction that we see for new construction or within within the attic or the basement based on your foundation, kind of what we see as the existing condition. Then we're going to do a cost of overall project. So looking at permit fees, at architect, do you need a survey? Do you need a sales report? So we're kind of building you out a bit of a budget, like kind of handwriting, talking, doing math, so that you have a real sense of what this project can cost. And then review of utility, sewer, electrical. Like if we'll open, walking around, we're gonna open a panel. Oh gosh, that's 100 amps. Like you're gonna definitely need 200, or you're gonna need 400 because just like high level, what do we see? We're not gonna do like a sewer.
Yeah.
but kind of what we see. And then the services needed, as I said, kind of really what do you really need a survey, or will you need a geotech or not, things like that. And then the timeline for the city approval and process, and the timeline for construction, and any of the fees for not only us, but any of our consultants. So really trying to give you a snapshot, just like high level picture of what can happen.
That's awesome. I mean, if anyone's looking to do anything like this, please come and bid on it, and might as well give the money to charity. Or this is a great gift for a client who has a multifamily property or wants to build an ADU or anything like that. That would be a really cool gift, and maybe it'll be something to help you get the listing and say, look, I have this gift. It's $750. If I do the listing, I will give it to you, and would be happy to help you understand what's possible with this property so we could sell it at a higher value.
Exactly.
Very cool listing tool, right?
Yes, and exactly that's what will happen is people will bring us in. You know how you'll do a inspection, right? And that's a physical inspection. How's my roof? How's the chimney, right? Great. And that's like this report, and that really makes a buyer decide, right?
Yeah.
Is this gonna be, what am I gonna ask for?
Yeah.
So similarly, this is like an architectural report. If you do that report, we do them during escrow, you see, oh, what can I do? Or what's unpermitted?
Yeah.
Or what's, you know what I mean? And then you have this leverage again with the client, with the owner that you're buying from, or to themselves, just to know what to do.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, use it during escrow. Cool. Thank you so much. Any questions from anyone on any of this? Again, it was recorded and on our YouTube page tomorrow. So take a look at the Collective Realty on YouTube and review some of those highlights and some of the slides that maybe were a little small. You'll be able to scroll in on YouTube and kind of learn a little bit more and dig a little bit deeper. And of course, Stephanie's info will be there. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, Alex.
Just question. My question is for this is for residential, not for a single family unit. When you put an ADU, do you have to contemplate the space for the garage in the ADU, or can you just build it without a garage and just let people park on the street?
Family, the garage, if you're within a half-a-mile radius of a bus stop, so you're in like a high transit, which is a lot of our city, but you get into the hills or not, right? But if you're within that half-a-mile radius, you do not need to allow for any parking for the ADU. But let's say you are, you need to allow for it on your site. You might have a driveway already, and that can be open and then the drive. It does not need to be in the garage anymore, right? It doesn't have to be, like single family residence, 2-car garage or 2-car carport. That's like the letter of the law when you're building a new one. And you can't, say you only have one, you can't reduce it unless you build an ADU in it. Okay, you still need that 1 or 2 car that you already had, but you can park on the drive or somewhere. Yeah, if you were in a hills, if you're away from a half-mile bus stop, radius. So no, yeah. Sure.
Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you guys next time. LAMultifamilyMeetup.com is our meetup page. It was hijacked for a couple weeks, so in case you saw a lot of crazy events popping up, I don't know what happened, but Will and I were able to get it back and it's under control. So we look forward to seeing you guys soon. Thank you as always for joining us. Have a great day, and thank you to our lovely lunch sponsor. Any last words from you?
No, just as far as from a financing perspective, maybe we can have a one of the events that you put on around the language of investors. I have a nice presentation for that. So I'm always available for any questions. One point I'd like to make out on 4 or more family properties, they usually qualify on their own. We're now allowing for creative financing in terms of using the borrower's income towards the, qualifying, less down payments to make the ratios make them work. And we're also able to convert just pure assets into income. So that's been very helpful on some of my other transactions.
Sounds good. Yeah, if you have a lot of Bitcoin, right? Anything like that, you can use it. Okay. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you, Stephanie.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.